lawmakers with a push to keep guns out of the hands of Indiana kids.
Yeah, tonight our Statehouse reporter Emily Longnecker shows us why gun safety advocates want state lawmakers to rethink a bill that never made it out of committee.
When you walk into those houses, the gore, the screams, the cries, they're unimaginable.
Lisette Guillen remembers every home she's been to after a child was shot. The faces of some of those children were on a sign Guillen and other gun safety advocates held up Thursday morning outside the Statehouse.
This is where the laws that are supposed to protect the citizens of Indiana, Hoosiers, that includes our children, are made in this building.
And those laws are exactly why these advocates said they were here. After House Bill 1318 that would have offered a tax credit to Hoosiers who buy a device to secure a gun never even got a committee hearing. And it wasn't the only one. Under another House bill, a person could have been charged with felony neglect of a dependent if a child got a hold of an unsecured gun and hurt or killed someone. That bill also never got heard in committee. Several Senate bills dealing with gun regulations met the same end.
There are other bills that made it through okay that weren't as important. Now, I say they're not as important because even though they are important in their own right, nothing is as important as a child's life.
According to statistics compiled by Everytown, a nonprofit advocating for education on gun violence and prevention, last year Indiana had 26 unintentional shootings involving children. In 9 of those cases, a child died. According to Everytown, shootings are the leading cause of death in children and teens in Indiana.
We're losing our children.
That's why these advocates say they'll be back to pass out gun locks in Indianapolis after already passing out thousands in the northern part of the state.
We need the help of the lawmakers that walk into this building every single day.
A building children walk into every day, too. Children these advocates say they don't want to become another gun death statistic.
That could be your child. Don't think it can't happen to you.
A previous law that takes effect this year requires the Indiana Department of Education and the Indiana State Police to start passing out materials that show the importance of safe storage for guns. These advocates today hope that lawmakers will take it a step further and take the language out of that failed House bill on the safe storage of guns and put it into a Senate bill here in this second half of the legislative session. At the Indiana Statehouse, Emily Longnecker, 13 News.
The lack of gun control legislation is also frustrating Indiana lawmakers.
Senator J.D. Ford released a statement after a shooting at a gym on Tuesday. It said in part, quote, "Gun violence is made possible by our gun policies. I am saddened to see the repercussions of bad policy choices that are making Hoosiers everywhere less safe."
Ford was talking after that double shooting at a Vasa gym on the west side of Indianapolis, which is in his district. A man and a 16-year-old were shot. Metro Police tonight still searching for a suspect.
Parents of kids with special needs were at the Statehouse today, and it's not their first visit. It's part of an ongoing protest to propose cuts by the Family and Social Services Administration.
So these cuts, families say, would impact the care that they can give their children. 13 News reporter Emily Longnecker joins us now to explain how the cuts is going to specifically impact these families. Emily?
The cuts are part of FSSA's plan to make up some of its $1 billion shortfall to its Medicaid budget. The agency says $300 million of that would come by cutting a program that pays parents of special needs kids to take care of them at home.
Our kids matter. My kids matter.
They're raising their voices for children, many of whom can't do it themselves.
Somebody needs to stand up for those who don't have a voice. Most of these kids are nonverbal.
That's the case for Renee Case's 6-year-old daughter, Ivy, born with a rare genetic disorder.
She cannot sit, stand, walk, do anything on her own. She cannot dress herself. She cannot feed herself. Her vision is not the greatest either. She's nonverbal, so she can't communicate. So yeah, she requires 24/7 care.
Since 2022, Case and many of the parents who came to the Statehouse are part of the state's attendant care program. It allows parents of children with special needs like Ashley Clevin to be paid hourly for the care they give their child at home.
It's been a blessing to be able to help provide a little bit for our family by being able to be home with him.
Clevin is talking about her 5-year-old son Riker, who was born with cerebral palsy.
Now FSSA is proposing by July 1st ending payments to parent caregivers to make up for that Medicaid budget shortfall. The plan eliminates parents as an option to be a paid caregiver for their medically complex child. Other medical professionals like nurses would qualify as an attendant caregiver, but families know there's a shortage of those caregivers available to help.
Something that's already a struggle for him in his life doesn't need to include whether or not his mother can be his caregiver or not, a paid caregiver or not.
They are hoping that we won't be able to find somebody to take over our spot so that then they don't have to pay for it.
On its website, FSSA says it's been working to figure out what caused the unexpected increase in Medicaid expenses that led to the financial shortfall, much of which are in the area that the attendant care program is part of. FSSA says on its website we must now move to a service model that aligns with allowable waiver practices, is more financially sustainable, and also better recognizes support needs of caregivers. The website doesn't indicate how many families could be impacted by the cuts.
Because it's all about numbers. They aren't looking at the lives that it's affecting.
Many of those parents were hoping these cuts could be paused as part of a House bill. That bill never made it to the floor. Parents are still hoping language in that now dead bill will be added to a Senate bill in the second half of session.
And we are at the halfway point in this year's legislative session. The House finished up yesterday voting on bills.
Today was the deadline to vote on bills in the Senate. Our 13 News reporter Emily Longnecker tells us what they got done today.
Senators spent the whole day in session voting on bills that over the past month had first made it through the committee process and then the process where senators could offer changes. Today's votes were on bills that made it through both of those.
The machine is closed. Clerk will tally the roll.
The Senate passed 30 bills today, many of them dealing with education. One that came with a lot of discussion, Senate Bill 128, which would give school boards the final say on lessons in sex education. Under the bill, school boards must hold a public meeting and approve the material used to teach sexuality. Districts must also publish those materials on the district's website and what topics will be discussed.
I don't want a school board telling me and a professional who's going to teach the class what they should be using to teach my child human sexuality. Could it be the Bible? I don't know. Could it be some book that we've never heard of before? I don't know. Because now the school board gets to determine what material they use to teach human sexuality.
Another bill would require schools to establish a truancy prevention policy for students in grades K through 6. It also called for an interim study committee to look at the state's truancy numbers. When it comes to public safety, Senate Bill 240 passed. It would increase the penalties for blocking streets to drive around in circles. Bills that passed out of the Senate today now go to the House, where the vetting process will begin there by lawmakers for the second half of the session. That starts on Monday. At the Statehouse, Emily Longnecker, 13 News.